Have you ever felt exhausted from caring too much? Have you ever carried other people's pain while silently ignoring your own? If yes, then this message is for every empath out there. Being an empath is a gift, but it can also become a burden when you forget to protect your own heart. The world often praises kindness, but few people understand the emotional battles empaths face every single day. Empaths feel emotions in a way that most people will never fully understand. They don't simply observe sadness, anger, fear, or disappointment, they absorb it. A single harsh word can echo in their mind for hours, sometimes even days. They replay conversations repeatedly, wondering if they hurt someone, disappointed someone, or failed to help enough. While others may move on quickly from emotional situations, empaths carry those feelings deep within their hearts long after the moment is past. This deep emotional sensitivity affects every part of their lives. Walking into a room filled with tension can instantly change their mood. Being around negative people can drain their energy without them even realizing why. They can sense when someone is hiding pain behind a smile, and they often notice emotional shifts before anyone says a single word. Even crowded places can feel overwhelming because empaths unconsciously pick up the emotions and energies surrounding them. Because of this, many empaths grow up feeling different from everyone else. They are often told they are too sensitive or that they take things too personally. Over time, they begin questioning themselves and wondering why they cannot simply ignore things the way others do. They may try to hide their emotions, suppress their feelings, or pretend they are unaffected just to fit into a world that rewards emotional toughness more than emotional awareness. But the truth is, feeling deeply is not a flaw. It is a rare ability. Empaths experience life with intensity, compassion, and emotional depth that many people have lost. They care deeply about others, often placing other people's happiness before their own. They genuinely want to comfort, heal, and support those around them. Seeing someone in pain affects them emotionally because their hearts naturally connect with human suffering. At times, this emotional depth can become exhausting. Empaths may struggle with emotional burnout because they constantly carry not only their own pain, but also the emotions of everyone around them. They often give too much of themselves without realizing how emotionally depleted they have become. This is why solitude becomes so important for empaths. Quiet moments help them recharge, reconnect with themselves, and separate their own emotions from the emotions they absorb from others. Despite the emotional challenges they face, empaths possess one of the most powerful qualities a person can have: the ability to truly feel, truly care, and truly understand people on a deeper level. One of the most difficult realities empaths face in life is how often they attract emotionally draining or toxic individuals. It seems to happen repeatedly, almost like a pattern they cannot escape. At first, an empath may see the best in everyone they meet. They look beyond flaws, past mistakes, and even clear red flags because their heart naturally focuses on potential rather than reality. They believe that if they show enough love, patience, and understanding, they can help someone grow into a better version of themselves. This mindset makes empaths incredibly compassionate, but it also makes them vulnerable. Sick people are often drawn to empaths because they sense kindness, patience, and emotional availability. These individuals may appear charming, broken, or misunderstood in the beginning, creating a strong emotional connection quickly. The empath, driven by a desire to help and heal, steps in without realizing they are entering a cycle where their energy will slowly be drained. Over time, the imbalance becomes clear. The empath gives more than they receive, listens more than they are heard, and forgives more than they should. Their emotional boundaries start to weaken because they are constantly prioritizing someone else's needs over their own well-being. They begin to feel confused, tired, and emotionally overwhelmed, but still struggle to let go because they are deeply attached to the idea of helping someone change. What makes this experience even harder is that empaths often blame themselves when things go wrong. They question whether they loved too much, gave too little, or misunderstood the situation. This self-blame keeps them stuck in cycles that are difficult to break. But eventually, life forces them to recognize an important truth: not everyone wants to be healed. And not everyone is capable of change just because you care about them deeply. Reaching this realization is painful but necessary. It teaches empaths that love without boundaries leads to emotional exhaustion, and that kindness without self-protection can become self-destruction. They begin to understand that walking away is not giving up on someone, it is choosing to preserve their own peace when the other person refuses to change or grow. Empaths often become emotionally exhausted because they spend so much of their lives carrying the weight of other people's emotions. They are the ones everyone turns to during difficult moments. Friends call them when life falls apart, family members rely on them for comfort, and even strangers feel safe opening up to them. Empaths naturally create an environment where people feel understood, supported, and emotionally secure. But while they are busy helping everyone else survive emotionally, they quietly neglect themselves. At first, they may not even notice the damage. They continue listening, comforting, encouraging, and sacrificing their own peace because making others feel better gives them a sense of purpose. They tell themselves they are saint, wrong enough to handle it. But emotional energy works differently for empaths. Every painful story, every negative interaction, and every emotional burden slowly builds up inside them. Over time, their mind becomes crowded with emotions that were never truly theirs to carry. This emotional overload can affect every area of their life. They may begin feeling mentally drained for no obvious reason. Simple tasks become overwhelming. Their motivation disappears, their energy drops, and even being around people starts to feel exhausting. Some empaths isolate themselves because social interactions become too emotionally heavy. Others continue pretending they are okay while silently battling anxiety, stress, and emotional burnout inside. One of the hardest parts about emotional exhaustion is that empaths rarely ask for help. They are so used to being the strong one that they struggle to admit when they are hurting too. They fear becoming a burden to others, so they suppress their own emotions and continue giving even when they have nothing left inside. This creates a dangerous cycle where they constantly pour from an empty cup. Many empaths also feel guilty when they try to rest or distract, distance themselves from people. They worry about disappointing others or appearing selfish for protecting their energy. But eventually they learn that constantly sacrificing themselves for everyone else is not sustainable. Emotional exhaustion forces them to recognize the importance of boundaries, solitude, and self-care. Spending time alone becomes necessary not because they hate people, but because silence helps them reconnect with themselves. Rest allows their overwhelmed mind to recover from the emotional noise they absorb daily. They slowly begin understanding that protecting their peace is just as important as helping others find theirs. Empaths often go through life feeling misunderstood by the people around them. From a young age, they may notice that they experience emotions far more intensely than others. Small changes in tone, energy, or behavior affect them deeply, while the people around them seem completely unaffected. Because of this, empaths are frequently labeled as too emotional, too sensitive, or overdramatic. These words can slowly make them feel isolated, as though something is wrong with the way they experience the world. What many people fail to understand is that empaths notice things others overlook. They can sense emotional tension hidden behind fake smiles. They pick up on unspoken pain, uncomfortable energy, and silent struggles without needing words. While most people focus only on what is visible, empaths naturally feel what is hidden beneath the surface. This deep emotional awareness allows them to connect with others on a level that feels incredibly real and meaningful, but it also makes life emotionally overwhelming at times. Because empaths process emotions so deeply, they often struggle to fit into environments where emotional honesty is ignored or dismissed. In workplaces, friendships, relationships, or even family settings, they may feel disconnected from people who avoid vulnerability or lack empathy. Surface-level conversations and emotionally cold behavior can make them feel lonely even when surrounded by others. They crave genuine connection, understanding, and emotional authenticity, but those qualities are not always easy to find. Over time, constantly feeling misunderstood can cause empaths to hide parts of themselves. They may stop expressing their emotions openly because they fear being judged or criticized. Some begin pretending they are emotionally stronger than they really are just to avoid hearing that they are too much. Others become quieter, withdrawing emotionally because they no longer feel safe sharing their true feelings with people who cannot understand them. This emotional isolation can become painful because empaths often spend their lives understanding everyone else while rarely feeling understood themselves. They listen deeply, support others endlessly, and notice emotional pain in everyone around them, yet few people take the time to truly see what the empath is carrying internally. As a result, many empaths silently battle feelings of loneliness despite being surrounded by people. Eventually, however, empaths begin realizing that being different is not something they need to apologize for. Their emotional depth is not weakness, it is part of what makes them unique. They learn that not everyone is capable of understanding their sensitivity, and that is okay. The right people will value their compassion, emotional intelligence, and depth instead of making them feel ashamed for it. One of the most painful yet transformative moments in an empath's life is learning how to walk away. For a long time, empaths hold on to people, relationships, and situations far beyond the point where they should let go. They believe in second chances, endless forgiveness, and the idea that love can heal almost anything. Even when they are hurt repeatedly, they continue trying to understand the other person's pain instead of focusing on their own wounds. Empaths naturally become emotionally attached because they invest deeply in people. When they care about someone, they give their full heart, energy, and attention. They stay loyal even during difficult times and often tolerate behavior that others would never accept. They convince themselves that if they remain patient enough, loving enough, or supportive enough, things will eventually improve. But this mindset can trap them in unhealthy relationships where they are constantly giving while receiving very little in return. At first, empaths ignore the warning signs. They overlook disrespect, emotional manipulation, dishonesty, and neglect because they focus more on a person's potential than on the reality of how they are being treated. They try to fix problems alone, hoping their love will inspire change. But over time, the emotional pain becomes impossible to ignore. They begin feeling drained, unappreciated, and emotionally invisible. What makes walking away especially difficult for empaths is guilt. They fear abandoning people. They worry that leaving means they failed someone they cared about deeply. Even when they know a relationship is damaging their mental and emotional health, they still struggle to choose themselves because their instinct is always to protect others first. This internal battle can keep them trapped for far too long. Eventually, however, life teaches empaths a lesson they cannot avoid. Love should not require constant self-sacrifice. They begin realizing that staying in toxic situations does not make them compassionate, it slowly destroys their peace. They understand that some people only take advantage of kindness without ever valuing it. No matter how much love an empath gives, they cannot force someone to change, respect them, or treat them better. The moment an empath finally decides to walk away is incredibly powerful. It does not happen because they stopped caring. In fact, they often still care deeply, but they finally recognize that caring for others should never come at the cost of losing themselves. Choosing distance becomes an act of self-respect rather than selfishness. Once empaths learn to walk away from what constantly hurts them, they begin reclaiming their emotional freedom. They stop chasing validation, stop begging to be understood, and stop sacrificing their peace for people who refuse to appreciate their heart. After all the heartbreak, emotional exhaustion, disappointment, and painful lessons, empaths eventually reach a stage where they begin to heal. This transformation changes everything about them. They are no longer the same person who allowed others to drain their energy, manipulate their kindness, or take advantage of their forgiving nature. The pain they experience does not harden their heart completely, but it teaches them wisdom, emotional strength, and self-respect. A healed empath becomes incredibly powerful because they finally understand the importance of balance. They still care deeply about others, but they no longer abandon themselves in the process. They learn that kindness without boundaries leads to suffering, so they begin protecting their peace with intention. Instead of constantly saying yes to everyone, they become selective about who has access to their energy, time, and emotions. One of the biggest changes in a healed empath is emotional awareness. Before healing, they often absorbed everyone's emotions without realizing how much it affected them. They carried pain that did not belong to them and felt responsible for fixing people's problems. But after healing, they learned to separate their emotions from the emotions of others. They become more grounded, emotionally stable, and less controlled by the chaos surrounding them. This growth also changes the way they approach relationships. Healed empaths stop chasing people who constantly hurt them or make them feel emotionally unsafe. They recognize manipulation faster and no longer ignore red flags simply because they see potential in someone. Their compassion remains, but now it is guided by wisdom instead of emotional desperation. They understand that healthy relationships require mutual respect, honesty, and emotional effort from both sides. Another powerful shift is the confidence they develop within themselves. For a long time, many empaths seek validation by trying to save others or prove their worth through endless giving. Healing teaches them that their value does not depend on how much they sacrifice for people. They begin appreciating themselves, honoring their emotions, and prioritizing their own well-being without guilt. What makes healed empaths truly powerful is that they still choose love despite everything they have been through. Even after experiencing betrayal, disappointment, and emotional pain, they do not become cruel or heartless. They continue spreading kindness, understanding, and compassion, but now they do it from a place of strength instead of weakness. Their heart remains soft, but their boundaries become strong. They no longer fear walking away from negativity, protecting their energy, or choosing peace over toxic attachment. A healed empath becomes someone who can love deeply while still respecting themselves, and that balance makes them one of the strongest people in the world. If you are an empath, your journey will not be easy. You will face heartbreak, emotional exhaustion, disappointment, and loneliness. But through all of it, you will discover something powerful. Your empathy is not your curse. It is your strength. The world may try to harden you, never lose the beautiful heart that makes you who you are. Just learn to protect it. Because once an empath learns balance, there is nothing more powerful than a kind soul that finally knows its worth.